What you're looking at is Jetpack Joyride, remade with one of the most advanced game engines, and this is my history of remaking it. Remaking a game might sound like quite a complicated task, so my first goal will be working prototype with three main aspects: endlessly moving player, world generation, and functioning obstacles. So let's start from the first one. I love how Jetpack Joyride approaches players' movement. It feels really smooth and fluent. I firstly tried to use engine's default physics, but it was just clunky and weird. After, I decided to handle movement with my own code. It was even more clunky and weird, but finally, I achieved behavior I like. To make things just a bit more pleasing to the eye, I added some simple animations, but we will definitely tweak it later. Now, when we have our version of endlessly moving Barry, let's implement another important aspect of the game: obstacles. There are three main kinds of obstacles: different types of lasers, rockets, and beams. Firstly, I implemented probably the easiest one: lasers. I can configure their size and make them rotatable in runtime, which is pretty convenient. The next one are rockets. We should just spawn them off-screen and make them move towards the player. A rocket can be destroyed once it crossed the left edge of the screen. There is also a warning widget in original game, so the player can react to the approaching rocket. I implemented same kind of behavior in my version. And finally, the last obstacle kind, beams. They appear on the screen from two sides and instantly warns the player with tiny beams, which don't hurt you for now. But soon, deadly beams will appear and kill the player if he doesn't react correctly. They can appear on different places and I can control it through the code. I guess we are done with obstacles. There will definitely be some tweaks later though. Now, let's move on to the third important aspect for our prototype: world generation. But firstly, let me introduce you to the sponsor of this video, Core. If you want to learn how to make games, Core is a great way to start. Core is a new free game creation tool that was designed to make game dev process much easier. With Core, you can create multiplayer games with no coding required. But if you want to, you can still write your own scripts with Lua language. Core allows almost everyone to create their own games. It also provides you with thousands of free, high-quality music, sound and art assets. You can build your games and publish them instantly on Core platform. Moreover, you can monetize your games with new perks program. Many Core creators have been able to pay their bills, buy their dream cars and quit their day jobs with the help of the perks program. But Core is not only a game creation tool, it is also a whole universe of games to play. There are over 20,000 games. Core is powered by Unreal Engine and available in Epic Games Store. I personally was impressed by how easy you can turn your idea into a game with Core, and how much variety you can achieve with only built-in tools. Core is completely free, so if you want to check it out, link in the description. I will break up the world into smaller sections, world chunks. Once the player reaches end of one chunk, the next one will be instantly spawned. But since the player can only see one chunk at a time, there is no need to have several of them in memory, so we can delete a chunk once the player left it. I have implemented similar logic in Subway Surfers remake, and it worked out pretty well. Now, when we have world generation done, we can actually remake some of world pieces from the original game. The pieces I chose to remake are laboratory, storage rooms, kind of sci-fi bunker, and underwater tunnels. Since different world chunks use different post-process and lighting settings, I also implemented some kind of blending system between them. Now, when we have some kind of beautiful world, our dummy doesn't really fit there anymore. So I added a guy model from my Subway Surfers remake. I guess this is shared game universe now. I did make different kinds of obstacles previously, but I still have obstacles generation system to implement. I didn't really find some kind of pattern in original game, so I guess spawning a random obstacle every time will work just fine. For now, I only spawn different types of lasers to test the system, but I will surely add other obstacles later. Also, I noticed that coins in original game are definitely involved in generation algorithm. Although we don't have coins yet, I can make them. Here is a single Dino coin, and here is a coin block I made. There are different shapes of coin blocks presented in Jetpack Joyride. I copied some of them and made a special one. All that remains is to add coins to obstacle generation system and spawn them in the world just like other kinds of obstacles. To make things a bit prettier, I added particle effect when player collects coins. I also noticed that our Barry still slides on the surface, even though he shouldn't use his jetpack when he is not flying. I added additional state in Barry's animation machine, so now he correctly runs on the surface instead of magically levitating. Another problem with Barry is that he still doesn't have his jetpack. Well, let's fix it. I made this jetpack model something similar to original Barry's jetpack. And since it is more like a machine gun in the original game, I should also make it so. Firstly, I wanna spawn bullets when character is moving up. Here I also use line tracing to determine bullets' direction, and most importantly, collision points with landscape. Then, let's attach jetpack model to player character. It shouldn't be static though. Let's make it alive by simulating jetpack recoil. I will simply add some oscillation for jetpack. It might not be a big difference, but it will be just a bit more realistic. Finally, I added some particles when bullet collides with the landscape. They differ for every landscape type. For example, metal and concrete floor have different impact particles. This is the final version of Barry, so let's work a bit on game cycle and implement player's death. Since I'm kind of tired of this project, I will simply copy that handling from my Subway Surfers remake. I mean, it's good enough, right? The world still feels a bit empty and we still miss something from original game. I added scientist model from my library and implemented pretty simple behavior. By default, scientists are working, but when they see a player, they might decide to run away, surrender or throw themselves down. Of course, I also added ragdoll simulation once they got hit by a bullet, rocket or Barry himself. One of the last major features I added was score system. Firstly, I wanted to simply add a score widget to the corner of the screen, but it was kinda, boring. So instead, I decided to render player's score right in the world, in the end of every world chunk. It adds a bit of immersion opposite to widget on the screen. After that, I wanted to implement some kind of main menu. Just like with score system, I didn't want to make a 2D widget on the screen, so instead, I modeled a bunch of letters and put them right in the game world. When player presses a button, Barry will break into the level and the game will begin. Speaking of immersion though, I added sounds from original game. And yes, it does feel like something is missing, so I slapped original soundtrack on top of it. And this is my tribute to one legendary mobile game. Alright, that was cool. Thank you much for watching, subscribe and smash like if you enjoyed. Also big cheers to all my Patreon supporters, especially Al Wizard, Jeremy Matsumoto and Luke Schurgers. Follow me on Twitter and join my Discord server for some sweet insights. Don't forget to check out Core, I'll put the links in the description. And as always, see you next time.